It is Wednesday. It's November 30th. I'm Ainsley Earhart. We start with a Fox News alert. President-elect Donald Trump announcing just seconds ago that he will officially step aside from his business before he enters the White House. There's breaking details and how his children are involved.
And the Secretary of State sweepstakes continues with more high-profile meetings with the president-elect, including a sit-down dinner with Mitt Romney, as you can see right there, screen right, and Reince Priebus, screen left, and the promise of another huge big-league announcement today.
Then, remember this campaign promise Mr. Trump made about keeping jobs in the United States?
Within 24 hours, they will call and say, "Sir, we've decided to stay in the United States. We'll stay in Indiana."
Well, after getting Ford to keep some people here, he's made good on that promise again. We'll give you the details because that's our job. And let me remind you, your mornings are better, even if you don't have any clothes on, because you're with friends.
Brighter than the sun.
Three Republicans and their friends across the aisle, a couple of Democrats, meet every single morning and talk politics. So we're invading their breakfast here in Oshkosh. Oshkosh, a swing district in Wisconsin that has gone for Obama twice, but now flipped to Trump. We're going to ask them if they voted for Trump and why, how they think he's doing so far, and how he's doing with cabinet picks. So the conversation's been going on all morning across the aisle, a bipartisan one, and we're going to be asking questions shortly.
Fantastic.
Great.
So issues and omelets in Oshkosh. Very good, Peter.
That's exactly right. Where they make the MRAP, by the way.
There you go. It's delicious. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pete. All right, this is a Fox News alert. President-elect Donald Trump announcing just a few seconds ago he will officially step aside from his business before he enters the White House. The breaking details and how his children are involved. Stuart Varney is here to talk about this. This just broke. He just put this on Twitter a few minutes ago.
Yes, he did. What you're seeing here is draining the swamp in action. Now, he's been harshly criticized for not draining the swamp, for employing a lot of people who have got a history in the establishment, so to speak. But the latest picks that I can see, he is changing policy dramatically. He's doing it quickly. He's doing it according to a plan, and things are moving. That, I suggest, is draining the swamp.
Let's talk about the dissemination. It's going to be tough, unprecedented, how he's going to divorce himself from the business, yet still have a relationship with his family. What do you think he'll announce that day? I'm done with the business, or do you think there'll be...
I don't know. Brian, I don't know how he will separate himself from his business interests and from his family's business interests. I don't know the mechanism by which you do that.
He's in 20 countries.
Yes, he is. And that's going to be very difficult, is it not? If you want a total divorce between the presidency and this business empire and his family's empire, that's something very difficult to achieve. And again, I don't know the mechanism.
Yeah, and historically, I mean, it is impossible ultimately for the president to have a conflict of interest, because the way the laws are written, the president and the vice president are not held to the same standard that everybody else is.
This is politics, Steve.
Right.
This is how it looks as opposed to how it is legally.
Well, rather than going the easy way where he just goes, "Trust me," he's actually doing it.
Okay. Whatever you say.
So traditionally,
but that's what it looks like.
Traditionally, every president has to step down from their business.
Traditionally, yes.
Right,
Okay.
but you have Thomas Jefferson, who was able to keep his farm back then. He had no problem earning some profits on his tobacco farm while he was still president.
But let's not go too far back.
Well, I mean, but you want president, don't you?
In the history of my lifetime, I don't recall a president who's had extensive business interests, and he keeps them during his presidency.
We have some stats of King George right now. Can we go to King George back in the turn of the century? Was he able to hold on to his kingdom?
Nobody's ever been this rich with such a vast empire, and so to untangle himself, it was just going to be complicated.
It's extremely difficult. And again, I don't know the mechanism.
All right, so let's talk about the people that have been named and hopefully get confirmed from Donald Trump's perspective. For example, Steve Mnuchin's going to be Treasury Secretary if Donald Trump has his way, and Wilbur Ross will get Commerce.
Let's start with Steve Mnuchin. When was the last time you saw a Treasury Secretary who had been a movie producer? He produced the movie Avatar. Yes, he spent most of his professional life at Goldman Sachs. That's the swamp, I guess you could say.
He also helped to do American Sniper.
Okay, but also he's coming on board at Treasury to get rid of many of the financial regulations which saddled Wall Street.
So he understands it.
He understands it, and he's going to drain it. And again, When was the last time you saw a Treasury Secretary as a movie producer? I mean, you ever seen that before?
Right, but we did see a Goldman Sachs guy run it before. That was Hank Paulson.
Okay, but he wasn't a movie producer, was he? I mean, look, what I'm saying is this guy is different. He's coming at things in a very different sort of way.
What he says, he's sending out a slew of tweets. He says, to do this under the law, I felt it visually important as president to in no way have any conflict of interest with my various businesses. Hence, legal documents will be crafted which take me completely out of business operations. The presidency is a far more important task.
Then that is a very big deal. If you can draft legal documents that do precisely that, separate the presidency from your business empire, I'd like to see it.
That explains why it's December 15th, because I was wondering, why is he tweeting now about something that's going to happen in a few weeks? But that makes sense.
There's a lot of positive news breaking here. I mean, he's got all these nominees for the cabinet. They're very different picks.
Saving the
all
jobs
of them
at
have
Carrier.
Plans. Look at Carrier, precisely. Now, before the election, he said, I'm going to bring those jobs back. Remember that famous piece of videotape where the workers are being told your jobs are going to Mexico? Well, that has been reversed substantially. 1,000 jobs will stay in Indiana, and the president will go to Indiana tomorrow to celebrate.
Do you have a problem with the president manipulating businesses?
Manipulating businesses?
Convincing them to stay?
No, he strong-armed them. What's wrong with that?
That's business. As a free market guy?
He's negotiated it. He's going at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's won this one. He's won 1,000 jobs to stay in Indiana. I have no objection to that whatsoever.
By the way, Steve Mnuchin and Wilbur Ross have both confirmed officially, this is a Fox News alert, that they have been offered jobs in the Trump administration. Now, of course, they will face the nomination process.
Now, Wilbur Ross, by the way, is going to be in charge at Commerce. He's going to be in charge of trade policy. That, again, is a radical reversal from what we've had before. Wilbur Ross is in charge of that. Steve Mnuchin, he's going to reverse what's called Dodd-Frank financial regulation. Betsy DeVos is going to reverse public education. Not entirely, but she's for school choice. Tom Price is going to reverse Obamacare. When you talk about draining the swamp, I put it to you that one of the big things is you've got a plan, you execute that plan, you do it quickly, and it's a reversal of what you've seen before. That is draining the swamp.
Sure, and then you look...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and you look at just... What he's doing is, in his cabinet, he's putting specialists, people who are experts at stuff. When it comes to immigration, one of his big things, who's he got there? The new AG, if he's confirmed, would be Mr. Sessions.
They know what they're talking about in their individual area.
They don't need on-the-job training.
Yeah, they've got a plan. Tom Price really sticks out to me. He does have a plan in place to replace Obamacare. That's a very big deal, and that's what's going to happen.
You know what also rings true is he's so tight. He took over the budget process from Paul Ryan. And Tom Price and Paul Ryan are very close. And if you're wondering if Paul Ryan and Donald Trump can work together, that's your answer. Because Tom Price is representing a lot of Paul Ryan's views.
And also Paul Ryan's views on tax changes. Now, the president has to negotiate with Congress what kind of tax reform plan he's going to get. They're pretty close. They're negotiating it as we speak. You will have a tax reform plan by the spring, implemented by the spring.
Wow.
That's a very big deal.
What about Mitt Romney? Do you think he's going to get Secretary of State? And what did you make of his comments when he came out of the dinner last night?
Conciliatory, I would say. Wasn't quite kumbaya, but...
But he can't really be, right? I mean, he can't, come out gushing immediately.
Well, I don't know who's going to be the Secretary of State. I have no input on that whatsoever. But that meeting, that dinner was intriguing, was it not? What I liked was that they got a round of applause when they walked in the restaurant. This is New York City.
That's what I said.
So that was last night. Now a lot of news is breaking. We got another Fox News alert. Apparently, they've just named the co-owner of the Chicago Cubs, Todd Ricketts, is going to be Deputy Commerce Secretary, if confirmed.
I'm not quite sure what to make of that. That's just happening as we speak.
Well, just another guy, a prominent guy, a business guy.
It is another top position that is being filled by people who have a business orientation, a negotiating-oriented position. It's taking shape, and it's a very different cabinet from what we've been used to.
If the Cubs don't win the World Series, he does not get this job. That's my opinion. And I have no sources. I'm just going with my gut instinct on that. Here's the other thing. How these two men, Mitt Romney and Donald Trump, have to be so hungry today. They had frog's legs for dinner. There's nothing in frog's legs. What do you chew on, the thighs? Do they even have thighs?
No, that was Brian, that was the soup. Actually, Mitt Romney had lamb chops, and Mr.
Donald Trump had sirloin.
Yeah, along with Mr. Davis. They had steak. They had steak. It must have been $1,000.
Why am I part of this conversation?
I know. Why are we talking about it?
It's breakfast time. We've been watching Pete out there eating.
I've been on a diet for months. What am I talking about here?
Ultimately, what these pics show us is that it's no longer business as usual, and he's bringing people who know how to work with business into his business, which is now running the country.
He's embracing a broad cross-section of opinion, sometimes from the other side, to bring them into his cabinet and to listen to them and get this country moving forward.
Yeah, we spoke to that carrier earlier. Just a few others. Elaine Chao is going to be
She'll be in charge of infrastructure.
Right. What I think is interesting is, as much as he loves Rudy Giuliani and seemed to have a personal relationship with Governor Christie, I think he's also worried about people getting confirmed. And he doesn't want to know how much capital he can spend in doing that. Do you think that's playing into the fact that he's naming loyalists to key positions, but in some cases he's not?
I think he wants to avoid big fights with the nominating process going before the Senate. I mean, I think he wants to avoid that. Whether that's a really big factor in who he chooses, that's another story. I think Donald Trump's the kind of guy who says, I want him.
People are worried about Rudy Giuliani if he is chosen, if he can make it through the process. Do you think that's...
Well, that would be a problem, because there are more conflict of interest problems with his business dealings in the past and with foreign countries in the past.
But there's
that could be an issue, yes.
Sure, but there's no suggestion Rudy broke any laws in business.
None whatsoever.
And nobody fought harder in the run-up to the election for Mr. Trump than Rudy Giuliani.
Odds are that Rudy Giuliani would be confirmed for any position that Donald Trump nominates him to, but there would be a fight, and maybe Mr. Trump wants to avoid that.
And
fight.
here's something you can relate to. He's not he went into the real world, went into business, international business. That is a plus for somebody who's going to be working on the international stage. He didn't do anything wrong. He got experience.
When was the last time you saw President Obama break bread with, or talk to, or confer with anybody in business?
No.
When was the last time you ever saw that? It's been a hostile relationship with business all the way through. And that's really changing rapidly as we speak.
You didn't build that business. Remember that guy?
Wasn't that Elizabeth Warren?
Now she's taken over that mantle.
Thank you very much.
Hey, we're going to watch you from 9 to noon because we can't get enough of you.
Really?
On the Fox Business Network.
Well, I've been on for, 5 or 6 minutes here. That's pretty good.
I know.
We'll
see you at 9, everybody. Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
It is a very, very busy Wednesday morning. A number of Fox News alerts already, and we're only 72 minutes into the program.
Deadly tornadoes are sweeping through the South overnight. Multiple children injured. Damage reports are just coming in as the wildfires down there in Tennessee are turning deadly. The inferno still raging this morning.
And is Hillary Clinton really off the hook for all of her scandals? Congressman Jim Jordan in Oversight says Congress is obligated to finish the job. See if she's guilty of anything. He's here with the plan. Coming up next. President-elect Donald Trump has all but ruled out getting Hillary Clinton prosecuted over her private email server, telling the New York Times in a lengthy interview, "It's not something that I just feel that strongly about." But our next guest says Congress still has an obligation to press on. Joins us right now is a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Ohio Representative Jim Jordan, a Republican. Mr. Jordan, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Steve.
Okay, so you say Congress has got an obligation to investigate whether or not Hillary Clinton or the Clinton Foundation did anything wrong. But if the top guy in your party is saying, I don't know if I feel that strongly about it, why would you go forward with it?
Well, we do have an obligation, not just any old obligation. It's a constitutional obligation. She obviously broke federal records law, at least I think she did. And I come back to the basic standard. It's equal treatment under the law in this country. That is the standard. And if anyone else would be investigated, then so should the former Secretary of State. So I think that's the right position for the House to take. As far as the administration goes, that's going to largely be a call for Senator Sessions when he becomes the Attorney General. If he thinks it warrants further pursuit, further activity, further investigation, then he can move in that direction. I certainly respect President-elect Trump's statement.
Sure.
But we have a job in the House, and we should do that regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of what party it is. We should do our constitutional duty. That's what the American people expect.
Sure. Congressman, over the last couple of years, the Department of Justice, which was supposed to be, completely neutral, has looked like a political wing of the White House. How does that change with the new administration?
I think Jeff Sessions is a tremendous individual who's going to change that very thing. That's one of the things I believe was an important issue, particularly in the last few months of this campaign. This idea that the Justice Department is supposed to be about justice, and it, as you said, rightly was focused on politics. I mean, just think about the Clinton example. When have you ever seen the subject of the investigation's husband interviewed by or visit with the Attorney General just a few days before the subject of the investigation is interviewed? Yeah. When have you ever seen 5 people get immunity? 5 people get immunity, and yet no one gets prosecuted.
Right.
5 people get immunity. 3 of them get. 3 of them don't even bother to testify. They take the 5th in front of Congress. 1 of them doesn't even bother to show up.
You can't make it up.
Yeah, and when have you ever seen the Attorney General announce beforehand, I'm going to follow the recommendations of the FBI,
right,
even though we don't know what the recommendations are? It's the first and only time it's happened. So when you see this play out, it's why I think our job in the House, our job as the members of the legislative branch, is to do our constitutional duty and make sure we provide the right oversight.
Real quickly before you go, now that the administration is switching parties, would this be easier for you to get your hands on IRS records? Because a lot of people are still steamed about that.
Yeah, I think so. And never forget, it was just 2 weeks ago the IRS announced that Albuquerque Tea Party wasn't going to get their tax-exempt status, even though they've waited 7 years for that. 7 years, and it still looks like targeting is going on. Wow. So yeah, I think we'll have a better opportunity to get deep down into these agencies, not just the IRS, but all these agencies, where so many of the left kind of hang out and are part of the bureaucracy. Right. I think that'll make it be an easier thing and something that we need to do as well.
All right, Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. You're going to be the first one in the office today.
All right.
Thank you, sir. All right, 7:20 now here in New York City. Coming up, our Democrats about to say so long to Nancy Pelosi later today in a big vote. Wait until you hear what her opponent for minority leader just said. And new cabinet picks from President-elect Donald Trump moments ago. Pete and Rachel Campos Duffy are in Wisconsin having breakfast with friends to get their take from some of the folks about the picks from the Donald.
Storms pound the South. That twister also reportedly injuring multiple children at a daycare center. We'll follow this story. And another Fox News alert, raging wildfires tearing through the state of Tennessee, leaving behind an apocalyptic aftermath. 3 people are now dead and hundreds of homes reduced to smoldering piles of rubble.
Running for their lives.
People basically running for their lives, he said. High winds fueling hot spots overnight, ripping through the resort towns of Gatlinburg and also Pigeon Forge for a 3rd straight day. I'll see you back here shortly with more headlines. Steve, Ryan, and Ainsley.
All right, a Fox News alert now. Donald Trump announcing on Twitter moments ago that he'll be leaving his business to his children officially when he takes the White House.
Here to react is Pete Hegseth with Fox News contributor Rachel Campos Duffy and voters at Mike's Place, which is a diner in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Hey, Pete.
That is exactly right. Really excited to be here. And Rachel Campos Duffy showed up, Fox News contributor, her and her husband. He represents the area of Wausau here in Wisconsin. So we said, come to Mike's Diner with us. And you did. And she chose, as a very bipartisan fashion, the table of Democrats. So, gentlemen, thank you very much this morning for sitting with the lovely Rachel Campos Duffy.
They're Democrats, but they're all Duffy supporters.
That's right. That's the secret for you, for sure. We wanted to ask you this morning, obviously, Donald Trump just tweeting recently that he's going to leave his businesses to focus on the presidency. What's your take on that?
I think it's a really smart move. He doesn't need any more controversy, and I think that this is the right thing for him to do. And I think these guys agree.
Would you agree, gentlemen? Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a sense that if you're president all in, and that's what he's announcing this morning.
We elected him to do the job of president.
Indeed. Our current president yesterday made some news because we've got Fox News up here in the diner. We're watching it. But his comment was part of the reason states like Wisconsin's flipped is that you had folks watching Fox News in bars and restaurants being indoctrinated. Is that what happened, or did Wisconsinites see the world a little bit differently?
Listen, it was about policy. It was not about that Obama didn't sell his message right, or that Fox News is playing in Mike's Diner. This is an area that's about manufacturing, and I think they want someone who's going to go out and fight for jobs. And I think this president and Hillary showed that they cared more about and had more passion for bathroom rules than they did about the rules and regulations that are killing jobs right here in Wisconsin.
Indeed. Very briefly, what are you hearing from constituents in Wisconsin about how Trump's doing so far on the transition?
So far, they love it, and I think the stuff that's going on about Carrier saving jobs, the jobs with Ford in Kentucky, these are all huge wins and show that he's got some wind on his back. He's fighting for us.
Absolutely. Well, there's big industries here in Oshkosh, including Oshkosh Trucking and Defense, which makes the MRAPs that guard our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm here to table with Republicans here. All voted for Trump, correct?
Correct.
And you discuss politics here every morning for the last decade.
For 1 hour.
For 1 hour every morning. I love it. And you're involved in, what do you do here in Oshkosh, sir?
I'm retired.
You're retired. You were a small business owner before that.
Yeah.
And sir, you ran were the sheriff here in Recount County?
For 8 years I was, yes.
Indeed, sir. And you were in law enforcement, I believe.
Right.
Correct? How do you feel like, first of all, why did Trump win Wisconsin, if you don't mind me asking? What's the secret sauce?
I think people were they wanted change. They wanted something that was different from what we had, and they saw some things in him that they didn't see with the current administration. I think they just wanted somebody to change.
They want to change. Any other themes that really you think hit this area?
No, I think change was the big thing too. I think people were tired of all the problems with Hillary and her past, and I think they just wanted something different and something removed from Washington. And hopefully we got it now.
You had some advice for the president-elect Trump, and as he goes forward, what do you think he needs to do to make sure?
I think he needs to not judge and take in a bunch of people that are already in the system, bring in some new people with new ideas.
So outsiders.
And drain the swamp a little bit, like he says. Just get a new idea how we're going to do things, because we need to get back, like he said, not the cliche, but to make America great again, because I believe that we are not looked upon like we should be.
What's your take, sir? How do you feel like he's doing so far in the transition as he's moved along?
So far, I think he's doing real good. I mean, he's picking people, I think, that are going to complement his administration. I think he's got people that he didn't even care for or didn't care for him. He's bringing in as they go along. It gives you something to think about when it comes to what he's doing, what his plan is.
You made a comment that there's one thing you hope he puts away. What did you say that?
Stay off the internet, tweet stuff.
Well, but he made his way tweeting as well, and he tweeted this morning that he's distancing himself from his business to stay focused on the presidency. Sir, what do you think about his decision to do that?
Well, I think it's a good decision, because that way it's going to remove him from hopefully any conflict of interest that he'd have with his business, and apparently his children are going to take over and run the business for him. It's still going to be hard for him to completely remove himself, but at least he'll do probably the best job he can, and hopefully there'll be no conflict of interest.
You know, it's awesome. So Jim, Terry, 2 Jims and a Terry this morning here. You guys have breakfast every morning, and I think that's a lot of what Washington, D.C. and New York City miss, is that people share their ideas every morning as friends, Republicans and across the aisle as Democrats. You're usually sitting together having a conversation.
No.
Not always?
There's a line.
There's a line. Okay, so, like every family, there's a line with politics. But Rachel is hanging out with the Democrats. We're here with the Republicans. A lot of opinions. But I do think it reinforces that politics is a grassroots business. And I appreciate the perspective you guys bring to this. Thanks for letting me invade your breakfast this morning.
It's our pleasure. Have a good day. Welcome to Oshkosh.
Yeah, Oshkosh is a wonderful town. Mike's Place, if you're here, definitely come on by. I know you're jealous because it's great food and coffee and awesome people here.
Yeah,
it's a fun morning.
So, Pete, that's the Trump table. Behind you is the Hillary table. Where's the Jill Stein table?
There is no Jill Stein table here. What do you guys make of the recount, by the way? Do you think it's any chance? It smells.
Right.
They say the recount smells.
It's going to make everybody sick.
I think she's.
That's right.
I think she was behind it long before she declared they were behind it.
So they think as many people do that Hillary Clinton is in cahoots.
I would suspect that. You can't prove it.
It's going to be a lot of money wasted.
We're going to keep talking. We're just going to keep talking. You just take the show. We'll just keep chatting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of money wasted
Pete, Jill
when the
Stein
end
might
results
buy the
come back.
diner because she has $6 million now.
There you go.
All right, let me see. 29 minutes before the top of the hour. I'll be back there in an hour. Coming up straight ahead, though, a glimpse into the mind of 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. From the man who interrogated him and waterboarded him. That's next.
And don't get mad at the people burning the American flag. It's natural.
What?
People are angry. They sometimes get angry and they burn the flag. Sometimes they burn the neighborhood.
And people have. All right, and Whoopi doesn't stop there.
Oh, boy.
Of this planet, we refuse to accept a fascist America. We refuse the desecration of Standing Rock. We burn this American flag on behalf of the 7 million.
from her Shasta County, California home. She weighed just 87 pounds when she was found. Her body was covered in burns and her hair had been cut. Police now searching for 2 Hispanic females as the Pepini family slams rumors that the kidnapping was part of some sort of race war. Investigators are now looking into a racially charged blog post from 2003 that was signed by someone claiming to be Sherry. We'll stay on the story. Well, could Nancy Pelosi be dethroned as House Minority Leader later today? The Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan says that he's now within striking distance of winning that job. House Democrats holding their leadership vote behind closed doors just a few hours from now. Ryan stunning the party by challenging Pelosi. She's had the job for the past 14 years. She's widely expected to win, though. Activists set fire to America's symbol of freedom right outside Trump Tower in New York City. This display in response to President-elect Donald Trump's tweet saying, quote, "Nobody should be allowed to burn the American flag. If they do, there must be consequences, perhaps loss of citizenship or a year in jail." Well, now the ladies of The View are weighing in. Listen to this.
Anything that's infringing upon our very constitutional right to speak. And it reeks of a dictatorship.
People are angry. They sometimes get angry and they burn the flag. Sometimes they burn the neighborhood.
And people have just as much right to be offended by it, too.
Well, the Supreme Court has upheld the right to do just that. But did they forget that Hillary Clinton once called for the exact same thing?
I hope, Mr. President, that we can pass a law that criminalizes flag burning and desecration.
Well, it's protected by the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And those are your headlines. I'll see you back here in just a little bit. Brian?
All right, get ready for this. Our next guest spent thousands of hours face-to-face with the mastermind of 9/11. And outside Jose Rodriguez, you're not going to speak to anybody like this again. And now he's sharing for the first time these terrifying stories from his days of waterboarding Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to Abu Zubaydah to Ramzi bin al-Shibh. In his brand new memoir, it's out yesterday, Enhanced Interrogation. Dr. James Mitchell joins us right now, who developed the CIA's Enhanced Interrogation program that's gotten so much controversial coverage, but now he gives the truth here. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to see you, Dr. Mitchell.
Thanks for having me on.
You describe in this book, you were going to be a private contractor. The CIA asked you, and you didn't want to take the job. After 9/11, they asked you, and you got to take the job. Sooner or later, they realize your skills, and they're going to develop enhanced interrogation practices. How would you define that, first off?
Well, the one important thing to remember is that it wasn't Jim Mitchell's enhanced interrogation program. It was America's. And the CIA was trying to protect Americans in the face of an upcoming catastrophic attack similar to what happened on 9/11. And so they asked me to pitch in and help when we were in crisis, and I agreed to do that.
So you did it, and we get the first big high-value target. It's Abu Zubaydah. And Abu Zubaydah has been shot. They don't know if he's going to live. They got to get you over there and describe the process of him recovering and trying to get him to speak. What ultimately got him to give you information that you needed?
Well, he gave up a few tidbits when the FBI and CIA were interrogating him, and I wasn't. But he ultimately shut down. And when he shut down, there was still credible evidence that there was going to be some kind of a catastrophic attack. We had intelligence that suggested bin Laden had met with the Pakistanis that had been passing out nuclear technology to rogue states that exported terrorism. We had anthrax attacks taking place in the United States. We had chatter about KSM's people already on the ground here in America attempting to do attacks. And so what the CIA did was the CIA asked me for a list of recommendations, which I gave them, and then they asked me to do the interrogations myself.
So it ends up yielding tremendous results. It enabled you perhaps to capture Ramzi bin al-Shibh, who led you to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who you spent countless hours in. The one thing that you described that broke him was when you had the ability to waterboard him. You only waterboarded him 5 times, despite all the rumors. And one thing that happened after you did that is that you went back to him to try to get his advice on how to handle Nashiri. He's another high-value target. And you said, I don't want to waterboard this guy. What should I do?
do. He insisted you do. In your book, he quoted Abu Zubaydah said, "You must do this for all the brothers. If you don't," and he talks, "the brothers has sinned. Allah will punish him." I'm not following. You think we should use harsh techniques, you say? Allah does not expect more of a man than he's capable of. You have to bring him to his limits. So Zubaydah was recommending that you bring these guys to their limits in order to get them to speak.
Right. To put that in context, what he was actually saying is that everyone is different, and that in their religion, the one that the Islamists follow, if a person helps the enemy without resisting to the best that they can, then it's a sin, and Allah will punish them. And what he was saying is, you have to help the brothers, right, so that they don't get sideways with their God. But he wasn't suggesting that we waterboard everybody, or he wasn't suggesting that we use harsh interrogation techniques on everybody. What he was saying is that everybody is different. For some, there won't be any need to use anything at all. And for others, that nothing you do to them will get them to talk to you. Your task is to figure out where they are, right, and provide them with enough coercion or tea and sympathy so that they feel that they've done to the best of their ability.
What you're saying, Dr. Mitchell, though, it clearly worked. It allowed you to roll up these guys and prevent attacks, some of which we don't know, other which we absolutely do know. And when Senator Feinstein inaccurately portrays your role, and others in the FBI inaccurately portray your role, this has been very aggravating for you, and this is the first time you can make your case.
That's true. That's true. This is the first time that I've been actually allowed to tell my side of the story. It took a long time to get it out, but I thought the Americans have a right to know what the CIA did. The men and women of the CIA, who many of whom sacrificed their lives to protect them, the sorts of things that we were trying to do.
And by the way, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed actually found a way to beat, amazingly, found a way to get the water out his nose, out his mouth. Would feel you so relaxed when you waterboard him, he would fall asleep on the gurney, but you ultimately broke him and got invaluable information that helped keep America safe. And you should be proud of that. For those critics, what do you say to them?
Well, what I would say to them is that the question that President-elect Trump has to ask himself is, what is he going to do when there's credible evidence of another catastrophic attack planned for a city in the United States, and they capture a guy like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, not some run-of-the-mill mujahideen jihadist brother, but the worst of the worst, who wants to protect his secrets, but has the information that could stop those attacks? What are they going to do? I'm telling you, the Army field manual is not going to work.
Right, and they have it, by the way. If you want to know the details about what happened and make your own decision, pick up Enhanced Interrogation. You cannot make a decision on Enhanced Interrogation until you read this book. Dr. Mitchell, thanks for what you've done for this country, and I'm sorry you've been through everything you've been through, but I'm glad you're getting a chance to tell your story. We'll talk more about it on the radio today.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, straight ahead, a Fox News alert. Donald Trump announcing on Twitter moments ago he'll be leaving his business to his children when he takes the White House. He'll get into detail. RNC strategist Sean Spicer has been living in New York City for the last few months. He used to smile like that. Will he be smiling like that today?
Fox News alert, a lot of breaking news regarding Donald Trump and the Trump Organization and the presidential transition team. So a perfect guest would be Sean Spicer, the RNC chief strategist and communications director, and he works on the transition team as well. Sean, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Oh, your boss was busy tweeting this morning. He sent 4 out in the last hour, and one of them says that he's going to be holding a major news conference here in New York City on December 15th. Essentially, he's going to separate himself from the company, and his kids are going to be in charge. What else can you tell us about that?
Well, I think, as he said in the tweet, he's going to announce it on December 15th, and I'm going to let him I'm not going to get ahead of him on that. But, you know, look, I think the last 24 hours, you've seen some amazing stuff, not only the picks, the people that he's continued to meet with, the announcements coming out for cabinet secretaries, but the news on Carrier. Things are getting done. Change is happening.
Well, how would you describe the news on Carrier? 1,000 jobs here. The New York Times goes, well, some jobs are going away because they're not moving. They're trying to spin it almost negatively this morning on their front page. What's the truth? What was offered? What was told? What went on?
Well, look, you heard Donald Trump and Mike Pence talk about this during the campaign. They said that they wanted to keep jobs here. He didn't sit around and wait. He got on the phone. He's been working the phones. You've seen it on the tweets. He called the president of United Technology. They've been working hard, him and Governor Pence, to keep Carrier here. And I think he's going to go to Indianapolis on Thursday to talk about the details of that plan. But the bottom line is this. Exactly what he said was going to happen is happening. He said he was going to fight to keep those jobs here. He picked up the phone. They worked a deal. They got it done. This is the kind of thing that Donald Trump's going to do as president of the United States. Get things done.
It's great news. My heart went out to all the people who thought they were losing their jobs. And when that news was announced yesterday, you know, no matter how you voted, you have to be in favor of this. Exactly. What else is he going to be doing tomorrow? Because I know tomorrow kicks off the Thank You America tour. He's thanking folks for voting for him.
Yeah, he's going to, he's obviously heading to Indianapolis, where he's going to make that announcement at Carrier with Governor Pence about what they've done. And I think, as you point out, Ainsley, I mean, what a season to do this in, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, for those 1,000+ people whose jobs are going to be kept here and their families, to know that the president and vice president-elect worked so hard to make sure that during this holiday season, that they can spend it knowing that they have a job. There's no better present than anyone could ask for. And I think you're going to continue to see people get rolled out over the next couple of weeks that are going to be part of a Trump-Pence administration that share that vision of bringing change, getting results for the American people.
Will the last job be Secretary of State? You said it's going to take a couple of weeks.
It'll happen when he's ready to announce it. As you saw last night, he had a really good dinner with former Governor Mitt Romney. He's going to meet with General Kelly today. He met with General Petraeus yesterday. He's talked to Rudy Giuliani. There's a lot of amazing, qualified individuals that want to share their ideas, thoughts, and visions with him. He's going to continue to listen to them. And then he and Governor Pence will sit around, and ultimately Donald Trump will make a decision who will represent him best in that position.
Of course, no position will be confirmed unless they check with Sean Spicer first. We all know that. It goes through the Spicer office.
And Sean, we're going to interview someone with Carrier at 8:15 this morning. I'm sure she's going to tell us what it was like to be a fly on the wall there yesterday. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
You bet, guys. Thank you.
All right, Dave Ramsey is also here with the best financial advice money can buy. But first, this is for you. It is free, and he is answering your emails, and he's walking into the studio now.
Free?
Come on
That's
in.
a good deal.
Free.
This is Lou for free. How's it going?
Can you believe it? Tomorrow marks the first day of December. So what money moves do you need to make before 2017? Let's ask the host of the Dave Ramsey Show on Sirius XM Radio, Dave Ramsey with Ramsey Solutions. Great to see you, Dave.
Thank you.
What are the money moves we need to make before the end of the year?
Well, a couple things. One is you'll check your 401k, make sure that your options are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and if you need to make some adjustments, it's a good time to do that. It's open enrollment still for some people, and you need to definitely look at your health insurance, because health insurance costs have exploded. Obamacare, as we all know, people who can do math know it's a disaster, and so it's caused these rates to go up 60, 70%. You got to really look at that and consider that. The other thing you need to do is realize that 2017 is not going to happen to you. You need to happen to it. That's called setting goals for 2017.
What about donations?
And of course, increase your charitable donations. If you itemize in specifically on your taxes, then you want to take advantage of your charitable gifts and make sure you give those up. And outrageous generosity is part of winning with money.
Okay, you brought up open enrollment. This first email is from Michael in Kentucky. He says, my company is currently in open enrollment. They offer a standard 401k and a Roth 401k. Which one should I go with?
Roth.
Why?
Roth is 4 magic letters that mean tax-free growth. And if you start, say, at age 30 and at age 70, you've got like $1 million in your 401k, which if you put money in there all that time, you would have. Almost all of that, like 94% of that is growth. The rest of it's money you put in. And the fact that the growth is tax-free, say in that example, would save you like $200,000 in taxes.
Wow.
So always do Roth.
I'm going to call my guy today and check that out and see what Fox offers. Thank you so much. All right, this is Devin in Missouri. He says, my wife and I have $45,000 in debt. I net $1,500 a month. We have not used the credit card in 2 months, but with Christmas, taxes, and insurance coming up, we're in trouble. What do we do from here? My gosh, we have all been there, and I feel his pain. What's your advice?
Been there myself. My grandmother used to say there's a great place to go when you're broke, to work.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 extra jobs, stop
stop retirement at work, stop anything you can at work except health insurance. You got to keep that in place, and do everything you can to tighten up the budget. The written budget will also give you the sense that you're winning with money. Feels like you kind of got a raise, and so put that together. And really, it is about income creation here. And then Christmas may be okay. Christmas may be a craft this year.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them, though, because it's retired people. They don't want to go back to work. They've worked their entire lives. They deserve this break, but sometimes you don't have a choice, unfortunately.
It's a math thing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dave. Coming up, big news out of the Trump transition right now. New cabinet picks, plus the president-elect leaving his business behind. Transition spokesman and advisor Jason Miller is here to react. That's in the next hour. Good morning to you. It is Wednesday. It's November 30th. I'm Ainsley Earhart. We start with a Fox News alert. President-elect Donald Trump announcing this morning he will step aside from his business to focus on running our great country. The new details breaking this morning and how his children will be involved.
Terrific. Then imagine being called to a company-wide meeting at work and hearing this awful news.
Competitive and protect the business for long term is to move production from our facility in Indianapolis to Monterrey, Mexico.
And, of course, everybody in the room will lose their jobs. But the president-elect already making good on a campaign promise, keeping Carrier from leaving the United States entirely. We're going to talk to an employee live whose job perhaps has just been saved by Donald Trump.
And they call her the Democrats' secret weapon. We now know the political future for First Lady Michelle Obama. We'll reveal it because you are watching Fox and Friends, your morning choice.
I think they did this song here on Fox and Friends, and right now, Pete Hegseth, who really probably should have a hairnet, is serving breakfast out at Mike's Place in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where, Pete, there's a lot of politics along with the pancakes, isn't there?
That's exactly right. We're here at Mike's Diner here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, a city and a county that the last two election cycles went for Obama. It went for Trump this cycle. We've got a diner filling up with great folks here. We're having lots of conversation, talking to the people as opposed to just pundits about how Donald Trump is doing, what he needs to do next. The recount here in Wisconsin. We've got a great special guest in Rachel Campo-Stuffy, who I'm looking out the corner of my eye. We're going to keep the conversation going all morning. It's diners and politics.
All right. Thanks a lot, Pete.
Thank you. That represents America right there. It's the flyover states. It's good old hardworking people. Can't wait to hear what they have to say.
Meanwhile, this morning, talking about hardworking Americans, the President-elect Donald Trump hard at work on Twitter again this morning, making some major announcements. In fact, he's saying, you want me to have a press conference? I'll have a press conference. It'll be December 15th, at which time I'll announce something specific that everyone's curious about, Republicans and Democrats. What is he going to do with his business once he becomes president?
It said right there at the end, I will be leaving my ... leaving my great business in total in order to fully focus on running the country, in order to make America great again. While I am not mandated to
do this under the law, I feel it is very important as president to in no way have a conflict of interest with my various businesses.
So I guess there's some documents that have been crafted, which take me completely out of the business operations. The presidency is a far more important task. There have been people that said that lawyers from the Obama administration and his legal team have been working together to find some pathway forward, because there's no argument here. Everyone wants to make it work, and this is unprecedented, so they could do this without partisanship. Sure. They could just try to find a pathway forward. However, if Don Jr. comes to visit him at the White House, if Ivanka comes in, are they going to say, well, are they talking business? Are they talking international affairs? They got to somehow get past that.
I'm sure that in addition to the legal documents, there will be some guidelines that they're going to have to follow.
That's why he's saying December 15th, because we have guests on this morning that are saying it's going to take that amount of time to figure out all the paperwork involved before he can just say goodbye to the businesses.
We are in uncharted water. We've never had a chief executive for the United States of America who's got such vast holdings, and so it takes some untangling, and they started that with these tweets.
You know what else I learned about this? When you can't fit it all in one tweet, and I always abbreviate everything, you can just do that. The ... Do another tweet. ... Do another tweet. Because he says, I'm leaving my... And it's like, what is he leaving?
He is the Christopher Columbus of Twitter.
He will tell you different ways to do it because he forges his own message. Meanwhile, let's talk about how busy he's been filling up his cabinet. We now have confirmed that Secretary of Treasury nominee will be Steve Mnuchin. He's a billionaire. He's had various investments, very steeped in Wall Street, and has taken a lot of that money over to Hollywood.
That's right. Then Wilbur Ross, he is going to be the Secretary of Commerce. This is a guy who saved the steel industry in the Rust Belt states, saved a lot of jobs when the steel industry was going down, and has also done that with some other industries as well, including textiles.
Right. He's also for candidate Donald Trump, too.
He is also, Wilbur Ross is a neighbor of Donald Trump down at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, so they've known each other for a long time. And then you've got the guy far screen right, and that would be Todd Ricketts. He's the co-owner of the Chicago Cubs. He has been named to be the Deputy Secretary of Congress.
I was reading about his life. His parents started TD Ameritrade.
Yeah.
And they're a billion-dollar family. He's since bought the Cubs. But his dad and his mom said to all four of the children, you're not allowed to work for us until you're 30 years old because we want to teach you autonomy, to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet.
And then you can go buy the Cubs.
Right, exactly.
I promise. Don't buy the Cubs until you're 30.
That's
all
right.
Now let's talk about what happened last night. One of the most intriguing dinners in quite a long time. And Donald Trump's doing a masterful job at creating a lot of tension, interest, and intrigue with the naming of his cabinet. Last night, we heard about a dinner 2 nights ago where Mitt Romney's coming in. I believe this is the second interview. The pool camera said, go tape a little of this. They lit from below, so you see Reince Priebus, Donald Trump, and Mitt Romney.
They lit from below. Also, when they walked into the
reflection from being lighted from above.
Everything's gold around Donald Trump, and even the table. Isn't that funny? But they walk into the restaurant, and everyone gives them a round of applause, which I really liked, because, you know, I'm from the South, and people give New York a bad rap because they think everyone's rude here. Well, it's not true. They walk in,
some rude people here.
But everyone praised them, even if they didn't vote for him, because, you know, it's a
actually, when Reince Priebus walked in, they handed him a little thing that said, in 20 minutes, you'll have your table, so they had to stay busy for a while because the table was not ready for him.
No, are you serious?
No.
This particular spot, you know, people were going, I wonder where he's going to wind up. He wound up taking Mr. Romney to Jean Georges, which is a 3-star Michelin
it's a great
place.
Restaurant.
In the New York Times, they wound up with 4 out of 4 stars. The big question is, and you know, when you've got your chief of staff, Reince Priebus right there, what are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about business. The business of what? Keep in mind, Mitt Romney 4 years ago had a business plan on how he would run the administration. You got to figure Donald Trump has said, all right, Mitt, what were you going to do 4 years ago? Because I'd like to pick your brain. Might have talked about that at Bedminster last week, and it was so interesting. He said, come on back, let's talk some more about that. I'd like to know. The big question is he going to wind up with the Secretary of State job, or is he going to wind up with a consolation job? And when Mr. Romney came out of the dinner last night, was this kind of his consolation? I feel pretty bad about saying some things in the past about him, and now I think things are great speech. We have a little of it right here.
A wonderful evening with President-elect Trump. We had another discussion about affairs throughout the world, and these discussions I've had with him have been enlightening and interesting and engaging. I've enjoyed them very, very much. The last few weeks he's been carrying out a transition effort, and I have to tell you I've been impressed by what I've seen in the transition effort. The people he selected as members of his cabinet are solid, effective, capable people. All of those things combined give me increasing hope that President-elect Trump is the very man who can lead us to that better future. Thank you.
The microphones weren't really there, so if you couldn't understand me, basically said, this is hope for our country. I'm looking forward to the months ahead for our country. And he went on to say, Donald Trump did something that I couldn't do. He won. He will be the next president.
He did. And one thing he said is, I hope, instead of I believe, which is kind of interesting. Politico says that he's Donald Trump's pick. He's gotten pushback from everyone, from his family members to people he respects like Newt Gingrich and Kellyanne Conway. I don't know if also Mitt Romney maybe is winning people over the more you talk to him. He's a very smart guy. His international relations ability and prognostications have almost all come true if you look back at that final debate with Barack Obama. And I think he's in the prime of his life. He's looking to serve. He's made enough money in his business. His kids are old enough they don't need him every day. So I think this would be a type of thing that he might thrive
I was thinking about this last night. I'm like, is he able to forgive and forget? because they said some bad things about each other.
Right.
America's upset about that. The people who are those diehard Trumpers who voted for him are upset because Trump is known for loyalty and Mitt Romney was not loyal to him as a Republican. But I was thinking about this, like, would you be able to do that as an individual? Could you forgive and forget? I could. As long as you don't mess with my family and you say something about me, I could forgive and forget if we sit down and we have a dialogue.
Sure. It's like James Gandolfini in The Sopranos. As don't mess with my family.
Don't mess with, is that what he said? I agree. Maybe I'm Italian.
Right, absolutely.
So the big question is Mitt Romney his pick, or is it? Keep in mind, Donald Trump is a showman, and he's been a producer of a television show for a long time. Is he just stringing us along thinking, hey, it's going to be Mitt Romney, it's going to be Mitt Romney? Ooh, head fake. It's back to the most loyal guy who went on the campaign trail for him, Rudy Giuliani. But we don't know. Stay tuned. Unless you know something, give us a call.
He did speak with Mike Bloomberg yesterday, too, a guy that ripped him at the Democratic convention and was very dismissive of him. They evidently spoke for 45 minutes yesterday.
That's good.
So he's making up with everybody.
So anyway, what do you think? Email us, friends@foxnews.com, or go to our Facebook page, because we've got the final four for Secretary of State, we believe. Bob Corker, David Petraeus, Rudy, and Mitt Romney.
But General Kelly's going in today, and many people think he is a contender. Heather Nauert, what's the latest?
Yeah, a lot going on there. A lot of things to keep track of, that's for sure. Good morning. Got a couple of headlines to bring you right now. We start with the Fox News alert and an important story from the South. 3 people have been killed and several other people hurt overnight after a tornado strikes in Alabama. Among the injured, we are told 4 children who were taking shelter at a daycare center. And it's hard to believe, but everyone inside this demolished home is alive this morning. A son held up a wall to save his mom as a storm crumbled their house to the ground. Wow, that powerful storm system also pounding parts of Mississippi and Tennessee. We'll keep watching this storm, and we are praying for the best for all our friends down there. Another Fox News alert right now. This in Tennessee, where the rain could help stop those raging wildfires now tearing through the state. 3 people are now dead and hundreds of homes reduced to smoldering piles of rubble.
I could see just sheets of flame coming down the mountain toward us.
High winds are fueling those hot spots overnight, ripping through the towns of Gatlinburg and also Pigeon Forge for a 3rd straight day. The Great Smoky Mountains, a popular tourist destination and also the home of Dollywood. It's a theme park, is safe, we are told, but more than a dozen cabins were damaged. Dolly Parton calling the scene heartbreaking. Hillary Clinton's long list of star-powered surrogates couldn't help her win the election, but she is back out of hiding, ready to return the favor. Clinton surprising Katy Perry at the annual UNICEF Snowflake Ball, presenting the singer with the Audrey Hepburn Humanitarian Award. It is her 2nd public appearance since losing the election to President-elect Donald Trump. And if you're wondering where she'll show up next, you can keep track of her by following her at HRC in the Wild on Twitter. There you go. Maybe you can find her hiking somewhere in the woods.
Back in the woods.
Because she's been doing that a lot with her husband. So
all right.
Both spotting her there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Heather.
All right, President-elect Donald Trump demonstrating his most famous skill so far, the art of the deal, after a company planned to move to Mexico with a lot of jobs. Remember this reaction at Carrier.
Competitive and protect the business for long term is to move production from our facility in Indianapolis to Monterrey, Mexico.
That was a while back in bad news. Well, now that man right there looks like his job may have just been saved by Donald Trump. We're going to talk to Robin Maynard next about Donald Trump and his promise.
And they call her the Democrats' secret weapon. This morning we now know the political future for First Lady Michelle Obama. That's straight ahead.